this is Darcy, and this is Lizzie, and this is their roadmap to success. Now, basically, he's a puppy. He's 5 months old, almost 5 months old, and she's 9 years old. And so he likes to play with her at times in ways that she doesn't like playing with him. She'll play with him a little bit. She's an active dog, and he's going to keep her a little bit more active. But there are going to be times where his energy is not going to match hers. We don't want to force her to always play with him. So we started off the session by talking about increasing the exercise. Now he has I don't want to say a litter mate, but somebody from the same breeder that's about his same age. And that's somebody who comes by here on a regular basis. She used to bring him by a lot. He was marking, and so she stopped doing that. I would recommend we still continue to do that as much as we can, but we keep the dogs outside so that they're not marking inside. So a little hiss to disagree. Sit. Sit. Come here, buddy. Come here. So basically, increasing exercise, a lot of the problems that the Guardian was describing for Darcy are things that could be rectified by increasing his stimulation, his exercise. Teaching him how to fetch should be a great thing, so that we can burn energy that way. I mentioned I like to dog ski, but we can give a dog backpack. We can do scent games. Like maybe bring her in, have him out of the room, hide treats behind little posts of stuff, and 5 of them, and then call him in the room and have him search for them. That's stimulating for the dog. But burning excess energy is not going to fix your problems, but it's going to make fixing your dog's problems much easier. Because Darcy is only still really a puppy, we'd like to get him a puppy socialization class, a class that specifically does a lot of socialization. Socialization meaning playing with the other dogs. Now this should be a class that only uses positive reinforcement. We don't want to use any prong collars or shot collars or pin the dogs down. They call them alpha rolls or taking the dog's breath away. Those are things we don't want. Those are old, out-of-date training methods that we don't use anymore, and because they create a lot of anxiety and stress in the dog. If I get weird messages, you can just ignore them. The Guardian's giving me a funny look as she's looking at my phone. So basically, if we teach him it should be like a 4 to 8 week class. It should be 1 hour a week. They'll show you some basic stuff, sit down, up and come, and that sort of stuff. But the most important thing is that he's going to be playing with other dogs. And when it feels good to bite other dogs in a playful manner, it doesn't feel as good to be on the receiving end. So the more that happens in dog play socialization time, the less he's going to be apt to do that with humans. Now, anytime he touches your teeth with your skin, I'm going to mimic it here. And then I can go back to petting the dog. So we're going to yelp like a little girl and freeze for a second. That's the first thing that I do. Now, if the dog keeps on going at you, a lot of times what I do is I would like to have a bone, actually, just like this, or a nyla bone. So I'd have one of these in my back pocket or an antler, and if I just give it to the dog, they're not going to be that interested in it. But if I tease him here, tease him here, tease him, and get him trying to get the bone, and now I'm making it more irresistible, and then I let him pull it away from me, now it becomes a trophy. And then he goes away and he lays down and he chews on his trophy, and we've redirected him away from what we don't want him to get into. Now, the last thing that I do is if the dog, do you get that? Mm-mm. Okay, if the dog actually gets really rambunctious when we're doing that and he won't take this, a lot of times that means they're overly tired, like I mentioned. Now, so we want to try to incorporate a little bit of a timeout, put him in the kennel or put him in an area where he's going to sleep a little bit. Now, I also like to give dogs carrots. Carrots ward off a type of cancer that is prevalent in canines, and they're good and dense, which dogs like chewing on. So what I do is, he's a little bit big for it, but I usually get like shredded carrots. I put a little bit of those in their bowl with their food to get them in the habit of eating carrots. Then I get little baby carrots. Now he's teething basically right now, which is partially why he's chewing more. So what I do is I have the carrots, and then I start freezing the carrots. I get them into the rest of the carrots before they're freezing, before I freeze them. So I'd get some carrots and I'd give him carrots. He'll chew and they'll have interesting poop, but it's good for him. And then you can give the carrots to dogs as bones for the rest of their life. And it's something dense for them to chew on. It helps them with boredom.
Oh.
And then when he starts teething, or when he's teething, after he's gotten used to it, you start freezing the carrots. And just like a baby chewing on something that's frozen, that helps numb their gums.
Yeah, because he eats ice.
Yes, and so ice does the same thing, but carrots are going to be better than ice because they'll last longer, and he gets to ingest it as well, where ice cube is hard to hold on to, where a carrot's easy to hold on to.
Okay.
And so those are the 3 ways that I like to redirect. Most of it is redirecting the dog into something else. But again, the puppy class is really going to help with that, so yelp. Now, last thing we could do is what's called the negative punishment, which is if he's biting you and he's not listening, leave the room and close the door behind you, and he's left in there. The caveat to that is if he's in this room, he'll be like, I'm going to chew on the leather couch instead. Sometimes that's a problem. That's why I like to have a puppy play area, a room that I can put him in where I know he's safe. Let me see. We also went over adding structure. So we went over adding rules. Some of the rules would be sit. We'll talk about that in a second. Not being allowed on the furniture. And I went over how to get the dogs off the furniture using positive reinforcement. Every time the dog gets down, we're going to pet the dog and say off. So we're going to create getting off the furniture is a great way to get attention from the human. Another thing, the dog should have to sit before I let it in or out of a door. And I go and I tell it, sit. The dog can sit, and I walk. After about 3 seconds, I walk away. I only say it once. I want the guardians to get in the habit of only saying command word one time now. Come. Oh, good buddy. Yes. Oh, I appreciate that. So if I go to the door and I say sit and he doesn't sit, well, then I'm going to walk away and wait 1 minute. And then I go to the back to the door and again command him, sit. Or both of them. If one of them sits and I open the door and let that dog out, I don't let the other dog out. And then I walk away the next time for 2 minutes, then for 4 minutes, then for 8 minutes. So each time they comply, they have to wait twice as long before they get an opportunity. This is demand barking. This is a result of not having a rules and structure. And the guardians, like many people do, want to show the dog that's loved and appreciated. Every time he does something they don't like, they were petting him. And that's what I'm going to go over petting with a purpose in a second. Yes, you're doing very good. This is the last treat I have. I want to keep you on camera. So hold on a second. I'll promise I'll give it to you next because you got all of them during the session. Okay, so the rule. So at first make it one direction for the doors, then make it both directions for the doors. Let me see. And as soon as they sit, the door opens like there's remote control in their butt. After a while, they'll go and sit at the door as their way of saying, I want to go outside. Now, his word is business. So if the guardian, sometimes he barks at her when he's being a demand barker or he's being petulant. Sometimes he's barking at her, he wants to go outside. So he starts barking, we want to say, business? He didn't even raise his head. So that means no. If I say business and you start seeing the dog bounce around, that's a yes. Then I would take him outside and go outside, follow him, have a treat with you. As soon as he starts to pee or poop, say the word business once. When he gets done, pop that treat in his mouth and say business a second time. Remember, you have a window of 3 seconds to correct or reward your dog, so we want to do that within 3 seconds of him finishing eliminating. Okay. Let me see, what else do we go over? Other rules. Not being allowed within 7 feet of a human who's eating. So we have a living room in here without panning around. We have a carpet on the area rug around the floor. So if somebody's sitting on the couch eating a snack here, the dog should not be allowed on the carpet in the street. They can be anywhere else, just not within 7 feet of the human who's eating. When we're cooking food in the kitchen, they're not allowed to come in the kitchen. Same boundary that was set up when we were feeding them. I would also feed them in a structured way. Let's see if we can get you to lay down. And so just so it doesn't obscure the camera. So basically, I want them to understand that when someone's cooking, the rule is I'm not allowed to be in the kitchen. The rest of the time I can go in the kitchen, not when somebody's cooking. When she's eating, he's not allowed in the kitchen. And when he's eating, she's not allowed in the kitchen. And the human is going to eat first, because for dogs, they eat in the order of their rank. So the humans have the most authority. She has the second most, because he's challenging her for authority. So we want to reinforce her position. And then he eats last. Where I use passive training to reward them. So when she eats, her word is feast. So when she takes her first bite of food for the next 2 months, we're going to say the word feast. So when she hears feast, there's food in her mouth. When he hears feast, there's no food in his mouth. Then when she gets done, she has to leave the kitchen. We invite him in. And when he eats, his word is, I think, chow. Mm-hmm. And so we say chow so when she hears chow, there's no food in her mouth. Now we have, because of the layout of the kitchen, we have a baby or a partition gate. What I would do is have the partition gate up, prepare the food, put the food down. A little bit different than what we did, but in retrospect, I think it'd be easier. Put the food down once it's prepared, and then we're going to go over and we're going to move the baby gate. If this is the doorway, we might move the baby gate over this much, so there's this much doorway. It's easier for the human to defend. Then the human's going to walk backwards, keeping her hips pointed at the door, go lean against the work island and grab an orange or whatever it is and eat something in 3 or more bites. If you don't want to eat a real meal, just get 1 chip and eat it in 3 tiny bites. 5 tiny bites, excuse me. When you get done, then she gets to come in and she eats in order. That way the humans are eating first. We're adding structure. Eventually it gets to the point where you won't even have to defend them at the door. They just come and sit at the line and wait for you to give them permission to eat. Exactly. Delaying gratification is also a great way for the dogs to learn self-control and discipline. She likes to play fetch. So when she brings the ball back, tell her to sit, and then I'll throw the ball for you. You want me to play your game? We're going to play it by my rules. My rules require you to do something for me. Come. This is passive training. Let's talk a little bit about passive training. One of the other things I wanted to go over. Ways to add structure to reinforce desired actions and behaviors. So most of us only correct and give our dog attention when...
Should I stop?
No, keep going. It's Dad's home. Most of us only, and Dad's petting the dogs while they're jumping up at the door. Anything your dog is doing when you pet it is what you're reinforcing. So you come home and the dog's excited and jumps up and you pet it, we're saying that jumping up on it is the way to ask for attention.
Don't pet the dogs.
So I think you're right. So when we come home, we want to just completely ignore the dogs until their energy is nice and calm. When they're, thank you, buddy. We have that. Drop. There we go. So just an extra old collar. So when we come home, we're going to ignore the dogs completely. If their energy is calm, kind of like the video that we have above this where I was talking about ignoring the dog. But this time the dogs are free. So we just ignore them, and as soon as their energy is calm, then we can turn over, we can pet them. I would prefer to tell them to sit, like we talked about. Sit. Good job. You're such a smarty. So basically what we're teaching the dogs is when we come home, if you're super duper excited and jumpy, I have no interest in you. Matter of fact, you're invisible to me. As soon as you sit and you have this energy, I become very irresistible. I'm going to give you all sorts of attention. Good attention and bad attention is almost the same thing. Well, if we're teaching the dogs that this is how get what you have to do to get my attention now, right now I'm jumping up and you're petting me. So of course I'm going to continue jumping up, and each time we do this, we make the dog a little bit more excited. After a while, you get to the point where they won't be able to control themselves. Also, they get very excited at the doorway. Part of it is I think they were fed at the doorway, which is not an ideal situation. Also, he's a door dasher. And so there's so much excitement at the door. This area is a super duper exciting part of the house. I'm going to run out the door and see maybe there's more excitement on the other side of this door. So by eliminating the excitement in that portal area and the excitement of people coming or going, he'll learn to keep himself a lot more relaxed. Oh, like I said, boring, not bored. So it's like, oh, somebody's coming, boring. They're not going to pay attention to me. I sit down. I'll go sit down in front of them. Yes, we're teaching them a proper way to interact. So passive training, I started talking about, is simply recognizing the dog when it does desired behaviors. Come. He just came on his own. I didn't ask him to come. I didn't influence him to come. But when he did come, he heard the word come, and only the word come. Not good come. Oh, what a smart dog you came. Just come. And then and I can pet him for an hour or as much as I want. But if I start petting him when he sits, when he lays down, when he comes to me, if he brings me a special toy, maybe I call this, white, or, I call this one green. So I can name toys and different things, and we put things in context, and now the dog kind of knows these are things that my humans really like. When they love it when I lay down in front of them. But right now, they've been nudging like she is right now, or scratching at the guardian, or barking at the guardians, and the guardians give them attention. So the guardians have trained the dogs to actually do the exact opposite of what they want. By simply recognizing right now, so he's coming to me, come. He would have liked to get a treat, but I promised her that I'm giving her the treat. But the more that we reward them for desired behaviors, the more they're going to engage in those, because that's what gets the reward. Now, we also went through passive petting with a purpose. She was nudging me with her nose. If I pet her when she nudges me, then she's telling me what to do, and I'm saying, yes, you're the boss of me. Sit. So instead, when she nudges me, I give her a counter order. So she nudges me, down. Down. I say crash, actually. But whatever the dog's word is. So you make the dog do something to change its state before you're going to give it attention. After a while, the dog's like, I have to pay for my attention. I pay for it through obedience. And each time we ask the dog to sit in this capacity, then we're on a walk and we ask the dog to sit, it's much easier because they're practicing it. The more they practice, just like us, the better at things they get. So if the dog demands attention, it comes and scratches, barks, nudges you, we're going to give the dog a counter order, tell it to sit, come. And then once it does, pet him and say sit or whatever it is. Now, if, let's say that the husband comes in and I'm the wife and I'm petting the dog and he sees I'm petting the dog, it's standing. He goes, paycheck. Paycheck just means I think you may have forgotten to ask the dog to pet. So I would say, sit. Sit. I actually asked him to sit before he came in the room. He heard you when you come down the hallway. And I continued petting him. David said, it's okay. It is. But the paycheck is just our way of reminding each other. I have watchwords for that. I also have one for vocabulary. Sit. I made a buddy. But for dogs, a lot of times we use a whole bunch of variety of the command words. Come here, over here, dog's name, whistle, tap my thigh. Now the dogs have to listen for all these different words. So instead we say vocabulary. So if I'm saying come here, you say vocabulary, come. And we're consolidating, making it easier for the dogs by only using one word for each command action, unless it's something unique like feeding them. His word is feast, her word is chow. Or her word is feast, his word is chow. And so that way we want to have separate words for them. Or if we put them in a stay, I like a separate release word, so I can release one dog and keep the other one where I want. But the more that we pet with a purpose, and give them a counter order, sit, sit. After a while, they're going to come and sit in front of us and prepay for attention. And the more that we pet them for sitting and laying down and coming, the more they're inclined to do that. Now, I also went through a quick recall exercise with him because he doesn't often like to come inside. If he's foraging in the bushes and the son asks him to come, he's like, I'm not coming, because that represents the end of fun. So what we did is we went over a recall exercise. So remember when you're doing, keep your 45-degree bend at your elbow, keep your forearm parallel to the floor. So I go up to put the dog into a sit, and I go over the head in an arc. And if I want the dog to come to me, I start lowering it. The lower I go, the more it's for the doggies. And then as soon as it gets to where I want, I raise it over his head again. And then I give him the treat and say the word come. Now, after a while, he's just going to come and sit in front of you. You won't have to raise it over his head. But if you say come and he doesn't pay attention to you, I would make a kissing sound. And they both look, and then I start lowering it. See how they're both tracking it. So the lower it goes, the more it's enticing for the dog. Go all the way to the floor if you have to. But the more we practice the recall exercise in the house, remember, first start with us about 10 feet apart, and careful your finger on this side. Sometimes people will get in the lens. And then eventually we want to make people move further and further and further away until the dog has to run all the way across the house or upstairs or downstairs. Every time I hear the word come, something good is about to happen. Now try to come up with fun command words, especially for him, because everything's new for him. I have a naughty dog name for my dogs. A fun word, I say, my dog's name is Quest. I say Rufus when he's doing the wrong thing. So when I say Rufus, he knows he's about to get in trouble. If I say Quest, he means something good. Most of the time we say Quest when it's good and bad, and that degenerates how quickly they'll come to us on a normal basis. I also like using fun command words. If my dog lays down, I say crash. So come up with some, you can say sit, and the other things are fine, but coming up with fun command words really helps crash. Bring in some levity to the situation, especially if we had a puppy. They sometimes do things we don't like, and we get a little frustrated with them, so having a little levity can be really beneficial. Let me see, I started going over a focus exercise, but he's a demand barker. And so remember, if he's demand barking, we want to try to redirect him into doing a sit or something else to redirect him from that, and then we can reward him for doing the other action as opposed to the demand barking. We can also get up and leave the room as maybe we have 3 barks. After fourth bark, I'm leaving the room. And so I just, what he's saying is pay attention, pet me. Hey, as soon as I hear the 4th bark, I have no interest in you anymore. After a while, he's going to learn if our timing is good, I'm only barked 2.5 times. I bark the 3.5 times, it's over. And eventually, like I said, through passive training and enforcing rules consistently and rewarding them with desired actions, behaviors, he has a Trump going on with his hair, then they're going to be more inclined to want to do those things. Now, one last thing is we have 2 dogs of different ages. It's important that we kind of look out for her a little bit as well. I know he likes to play with her and it's fun to play with her. Again, he needs some more exercise because that's part of why he's digging holes and getting us some nuisance problems. More exercise or taking him to doggy daycare will help. Be careful of doggy daycare. Make sure it's a doggy daycare that evaluates them independent of you. If they don't, that's probably, he might get beat up by other dogs. Now, he only has one of his accoutrements has dropped. The other one has not. When dogs get to about 6 months, 7 months, a lot of places will not allow you to have the dog there because it creates problems with other dogs. They can smell the hormones. Now, the old way, people used to neuter their dogs at like 3 months, 4 months, as soon as you can. There's a huge pet overpopulation problem. There's a reason that rescues and shelters do that. However, if you're a responsible dog guardian, and I find anybody who's going to hire me, I would think falls into that category, waiting longer can be beneficial, as long as there aren't other health issues. Now, if your dog's marking or humping or getting aggressive, sometimes you accelerate the process. My goal, though, would be to neuter the dog somewhere between 7 months, 9 months and 12 months in that, so about the last quarter of the year. Also, if your doctor can use a laser for the surgery, it becomes a bloodless surgery and it will heal faster. So it's usually about an extra $50. California might be a little bit more, but I find it's beneficial because they don't have to deal with all the stuff that you have to later on. Hi. Am I forgetting? For feeding, make sure the human is eating first, then the dogs eat in the order of their rank. Am I forgetting anything? We're going to come and set up a follow-up session to build on the stuff we're going over here. But if the guardian has any questions, please call me or text me. I want you to know I'm here to support you. And I'd rather you call me too much than not enough. All right, this is Darcy, and there's Sisty sitting on the couch. And this is their roadmap to success. If you want to come back to me real quick. Remember, everything that you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it.